Hello and welcome to Archive West Texas. I'm your host, Gordon Wilkerson, joined today as always by our producer, Rachel Boyd. Today we're talking about a project of deep significance for West Texas families, the West Texas State Veterans Cemetery that'll be here in Lubbock. Our guests are Norm Bearden. Norm's with the Texas General Land Office and Texas Veterans Land Board, and Sarah Weede. She's with City of Lubbock and she'll serve as the cemetery director. Norm and Sarah, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Norm, let's start with you. For West Texans, a lot of people have heard about the cemetery in Lubbock, but don't yet understand the why it was important to build here in Lubbock and why at this moment in time.
Well, the most important reason is because, for instance, veteran families in Amarillo would have to drive 270 miles to Abilene to obtain services from the veteran cemetery there. That or go over to New Mexico, maybe Santa Fe might be the next closest national veteran cemetery. But so the whole point is to have a final resting place within an acceptable distance from anywhere. So, of course, up here in the Panhandle, the closest veteran cemetery is in Abilene, and it's not so far from Lubbock, but for other folks up in the northern part of the Panhandle, it's quite a distance. So the time was right to bring a veteran cemetery up here to the Texas Panhandle, and so we will proudly serve the entire Texas Panhandle. We have no residency requirement, so you can be over in Clovis, you can be over in Hobbs. We'll be glad to take care of you right here in Lubbock.
This will be the fifth state veterans cemetery in Texas and the first new one built in some 15 years.
Yes, sir.
What does that say? I mean, these things don't just happen. How did this project come to be located in Lubbock?
Well, actually, the city of Amarillo has been trying for a long time to get a veteran cemetery up in the heart of the Panhandle up in Amarillo. And there was a county judge, Ernie Howdeshell, up there that worked very hard and long to get a veteran cemetery up there. And they came fairly close, but things just really didn't fall into place up there. What really did it for Lubbock was the donation of 100 acres from the city of Lubbock to the General Land Office for the purpose of building a veteran cemetery. Now, there are 4 national cemeteries, actually 5, but 4 open national veteran cemeteries in the state of Texas. But they're in the major metropolises of Dallas, Houston, El Paso, San Antonio. And then that's augmented by state veteran cemeteries, and those are located down in Mission. And then the oldest cemetery, Central Texas, in Killeen, and then one over in Corpus Christi. That was the last veteran cemetery built, and then one in Abilene. So we will be the 5th state veteran cemetery, and again, we will serve the entire the whole Texas Panhandle, really, and surrounding areas. So the time was right and the location was right for Lubbock to get the nod to move forward with the veteran cemetery.
Sarah, tell us about the site that the city donated. I read one article said it was adjacent to a former tourist attraction called Rimrock City, and I might be one of the few people in Lubbock County who actually went to Rimrock City as a kid. Tell us about the site, how it lays out, and how the city was able to make this donation.
Really, as Norm said, it's been a work in progress. There were 4 generals that were here in Lubbock. 2 are still living, and they actually helped bring the veterans, the VA clinic that we have over on 4th Street. They were very instrumental in that. And then when the city of Lubbock and those that were trying to get a veteran cemetery out here, they kept getting no. Well, these 4 generals, they don't take no for an answer. So between those 4 generals and some of the other veteran service organizations and a lot of politicians, we finally got to yes when the city decided to donate that land. And Steve Massengale was a big part of that. He was a former city councilman. And so he was a big advocate for helping get this for our veterans. And they donated the land, and it's really beautiful out there. At first, when we saw it before we broke ground on it, it was
hard to imagine.
It was hard to imagine, but it's out there. It's 100 acres. We've developed the first 33 acres as phase 1. And behind the cemeteries, eventually we're going to have this beautiful lake that's going to be our backyard. And if you go out there and you look around, you can see now the vision that they had with all of the nods to West Texas. They wanted to make this cemetery unique to the location. So they've made the brick, all the brick structures that are out there is a nod to Texas Tech. It's the same brick pattern. And the fence that surrounds the cemetery is this, it's a concrete fence, but it looks like it's a wooden fence that you can go and tie up your horse and go inside and do what you need to do. And it's just really beautiful. We've also had a generous donation from the Friends of the West Texas State Veteran Cemetery. They got together and they donated the funds for a carillon bell tower. And that bell tower is going to have the ability to play all of the service songs. It's going to play Reveille in the morning. It's going to play taps in the evening. And it's something that's been a great addition to what we're trying to have out there. So
what exactly is a carillon for our listeners? I mean, I think of a carillon, it's actually manually played by somebody and it has bells. Is this manual? Is this computer?
It's computer, it's digital. But if you look at it, it looks just like a bell tower. We have a beautiful structure that's set up and the bells are actually gold colored. And we were the first ones to have a different color from the tower itself. And so all the other cemeteries are starting to look at theirs. And I think Colleen just painted theirs.
Yes.
They just painted theirs to kind of, because it gives it a different, unique look. And so, yes, it is electronic and it'll be controlled from our admin building, but it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like a regular bell tower.
You kind of just think of church bells, downtown. Mm-hmm. Of course, I suppose a lot of those church bells are probably, they might be real bells, but I suspect a lot of them are probably electronic nowadays too. But it'll just be a very pleasing bell sound. But we can produce any kind of sound out of the bell tower. So it could even be a public address system if we needed it to be.
So who served as the architecture or design team for the cemetery?
Well, that was actually a local sign company that actually took what was at the other state veteran cemeteries and tried to get as close to that as possible without copying it. But yeah, that was a local sign company that did great work on the design of that. And we kind of have bragging rights on our tower because we're the only ones that has a star at the top of ours. And they said it had to be 40 foot. It is 40 foot, 6 inches. So we a little bit taller than everybody else.
There we go. Like the San Jacinto Monument and the Washington Monument. Before we leave this segment, was there a moment during planning or construction when you both realized, hey, this is a project that's going to matter for generations? And if so, what was that like?
My moment was not long ago when we raised the U.S. flag for the first time at the cemetery. That was just my defining moment of knowing that this is about to happen. We're very disappointed that it didn't happen when we promised in December, but that was beyond our control. But when we were able to raise a flag out there, and the Texas flag, of course, that to me was just the moment that it all kind of looked like it was going to come together and it was going to be just a wonderful place.
And mine was actually at the groundbreaking in November of 2023. It was a very, very cold day, and I had not yet been hired by the city, but to see how many people showed up for that was amazing. And they came from all throughout the state for the groundbreaking, and seeing even our oldest, we had Korean War veterans that were out there braving that cold. To me, that just opened my eyes to the big need that we had here in West Texas. And when we finally broke ground, it was just, to me, eye-opening how badly this was needed. And I was so excited, not knowing what my future was going to be in this at the time. It was something that I knew was going to be very big for us.
Those are both great stories and great moments. Norm, let's do a walkthrough for our listeners. Describe phase one of the cemetery and these burial vaults, or what you call doubles. Talk us through the logistics of cemetery planning.
Certainly. So to be able to offer all the types of committals that the other state and national cemeteries have, we were designed with phase one to include a columbarium spaces, in-ground cremain burial, a scattering garden for those that would wish to have their ashes scattered, and then traditional burial vaults. The part about the doubles, everything out there is double. So a traditional burial vault ours are double depth, whereas at most private cemeteries, they're side by side. These are stacked. So with it being a double depth, the first of a couple to pass would be at the bottom of the crypt, and then of course the second would be at the top. But they'd both be in the same crypt. So we have 510 of those double depth crypts out there in our traditional burial field. And then surrounding the U.S. flag inside the sections of the star, the big old Texas star, are each section of that is 1,000 spaces for cremain burials. And so that plot is a little bit smaller, 3 by 5, but that includes a full-size headstone. Whereas in the traditional burial field, of course, that includes a full-size headstone as well. But in the cremain burial plots, the headstones are just a little bit closer together. Of the 5 sections, 3 sections will be open initially. And so that's 1,000 for each section. So a total of 3,000 in-ground cremain burial spots. And then in the columbaria, each compartment is called a niche. And each compartment has enough room for approximately 3 full-size urns for cremains, certainly 2. So anyway, that's what we mean by each space is double, because in each space for committal, then there's at least 2 spaces, if not more.
Sarah, you talked a little bit about how the design intentionally reflects West Texas. Why is that important, and why is it important for a cemetery to feel and look like home?
Well, just like you said, we want veterans to feel like they're at home. When you're choosing a place to be buried, a lot of folks want to be buried in a place that is their home. And so that was why it's important for us to nod to the West Texas culture. It also allows the veterans to be buried with their fellow brothers and sisters. And so with the design, it was very important, I know, to not only Norm, but others who are part of the project, that not only it feels like home to the veterans who visit before they pass away, but also for the veterans' families who are coming to visit, because we want this place to be very peaceful, very welcoming, and a place where history is remembered. Because when you walk into the cemetery, you're going to see all of these headstones. And to me, it's more than just a resting place. It is a piece of history, because each veteran is buried there. They raised their right hand, they served their nation, and they're the reason why America's free. And so we want that to be very welcoming to the families and any visitors that come.
What are the criteria for being buried here, and how would a family or a survivor go about determining whether their loved one could be buried here?
So any service member that served in the active duty military for at least 24 months after September of 1980 and received a honorable discharge is eligible. Unfortunately, members of the Guard or the reserves who were never activated under Title 10 of U.S. Code or deployed to another conflict, those folks unfortunately are not eligible yet. I think they're working on a plan to include those at a later time. But right now, it's just active duty service members. So any of the 5 branches, and if you have a DD-214 with an honorable discharge, and of course, if you want to bring your spouse along, a copy of a marriage certificate. But yes, we try to find a way to yes if there's any question on whether they're eligible. Certainly, we have to follow the guidelines set forth by the National Cemetery Administration, who has very clear eligibility requirements for interment at a state or a national veteran cemetery. It's the same. So the eligibility and the benefits to the veteran family is the very same at Arlington as it is here in Lubbock at the State Veterans Cemetery.
So this is supposedly a no-cost proposition for those who are eligible. I think I know what no cost means, but what does that mean to these families?
So everything that the cemetery provides inside the gates of the cemetery is at no cost to the veteran or their family. So the crypt, the headstone, the opening, the closing, the use of the committal shelter, the services provided by the Regional Honor Guard, and of course, perpetual care, all of that is at no cost to the veteran. Now, before the gates of the cemetery, so the preparation at the funeral home, the actual embalming, the cremation, the casket, transportation to the cemetery, all of that is outside the gates of the cemetery, and that would be the responsibility of the veteran or their family.
How would a family make an application for a spot in the cemetery?
They can go to the Texas Veterans Land Board website, and that's under actually the Texas General Land Office. But yes, you can download and print the application for the Veterans Cemetery. Now, that's just the pre-registration. There is another application at the time of need, and it's called the interment application. So that's usually done in conjunction with the funeral home, and that's where everything is just absolutely. We have to have the final copy of a DD 214. Everything has to be in order. We verify spelling. Absolutely want to make sure we get that correct.
We're also up at the VA on Wednesday mornings helping with pre-registrations. We have applications there. So if veterans want to come and speak to us, we'll have two of our CSRs. Sometimes Norm will be there. Sometimes I'll be there to help answer any questions and help fill out that paperwork.
So there isn't an online registration. You can go online and print the application. It is a fillable form, but because of the requirement to have a DD 214 and your marriage certificate provided with that, at this point there isn't an online application process.
And Sarah, ultimately you'll be on site with the staff from the city, and I assume that people could visit your office at that point,
yes,
and get an application as well?
Once we open, they can come in and we'll help them. We'll have one of our staff members that sits at the front desk that will help with the pre-registrations.
I know there have been a few construction delays. When do you anticipate the cemetery opening at this point?
At this point, we continue to work diligently to address the issue that's keeping us from opening. But at this point, we do not have a date set. We promised the public that we would give at least a 30-day advance notice. So we can safely say that it won't be this month or next month. And we hope by March to at least have a pretty good idea, a projection of when we might open. But at this point, we have not set a date.
What are some of the issues you've been working with and working through?
The first thing, we want to make sure that everything is ready for occupancy. We have to have the infrastructure in place. We have to have the grounds ready. We have to have the equipment ready. We have to, of course, we've been working on training all along. Sarah has been, and her staff has been very diligent in training the staff. They've been practicing, with their excavators and their all their equipment. So I feel at this point that the staff is ready to be operational. But we wanted to make sure that everything else at the cemetery is 100% ready for our veterans to come out. But that includes everything. So the buildings, the equipment, even the landscaping. We wanted the landscaping to be in place, and hopefully some green grass out there. So, and we've got that. And I think with the recent snow out there, I think it's going to be even more better. Yes, in the near future. So we just wanted everything to be right when we open.
Great. Norm, Sarah, tell us a little bit about your backgrounds and why this project is important to you, each of you personally.
Well, after I retired from the Navy, did a brief stint at Bell Helicopter in Amarillo. And then I went to work for a state veterans program, and I did that for 15 years. And really, it was the background in that program, which was a veterans resource coordinator. So I knew a little bit about most every resource having to do with veterans. So then I transferred up here to Lubbock. And so I like to say I was in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing with the right people. So when this job came open for the on-site representative at the cemetery, I felt I was very well positioned to be that person. So I think my background in resource coordination has served me quite well. So I already knew about all the Veteran Service Organization, was a member of most of them, continue to be. So I just considered my last and final career being glad to serve the veteran family in this way in the final chapters of their lives. And the first program I worked with, it was working with the young veterans as they transitioned out of the military into civilian life. So I did that for a while, and now I'm on the other side taking care of the veterans in their final chapters.
And you're actually a Navy veteran. Tell us a little bit about your service.
Yes, I was a submariner. I served for 23 years. My specific occupation, I was a sonar tech. So I was a Jonesy on Hunt for Red October.
There you go.
Very interesting career. And I look back on it and I can't believe some of the things I did. But for the most part, I'm glad to be retired.
Sarah, you served as well in the Air Force. Tell us
did.
why this is a personal project for you.
Serving our country has always been a part of my family. My grandfathers both served, a lot of my uncles, my dad served, and I knew from a very young age that I wanted to do something that was bigger than part of myself, or bigger than myself. So when I decided to join, my mom wasn't all too happy with it, but I went ahead and I joined the Air Force, and I served as a airborne mission system operator on JSTARS, which is a C2 ISR, which is command and control, intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance aircraft. And I did that for 10 years, and I loved every bit of it. And the military became so ingrained in me that when I got out, I joined the reserves, but as a civilian, I was kind of lost. And the transition was not easy for me. So I joined the Veterans of Foreign Wars, and that became a family for me. And it really helped me with my transition into civilian life. But when I transferred to Texas, I became a part of the VFW here, Lubbock VFW Post 2466, and eventually became the commander. And like Norm, I have learned all of the different resources that are out there for our veterans, and taking care of our veterans is a mission of mine. And so while I did emergency preparedness is what I was trying to get into, and emergency management, I worked for the city for a little bit, and then I worked for Texas Tech as the assistant director of emergency management. But when this job came up, I had no intention of even applying for it. But so many people kept emailing me the application and saying, you need to apply, you need to apply. And so I applied, and surprisingly, I got the job. And to me, it's a way that I can continue to give back to veterans and their families, because this is some of the hardest times in people's lives when they have to lay their loved one to rest, whether it be the spouse or whether it be the veteran. And taking care of those who have served our country is very near and dear to my heart. And so that's ultimately why I applied. And I've been blessed that I got this position, because now I wake up every day and I love my job, and I get to interact with America's finest every day.
That's great. Norm, you talked a little bit at the break about some support that you've had from the community, specifically from the sign company that helped with the design. Talk us through that story, how that happened.
I just happened to be at the job trailer very early on in the construction process, and we don't get very many visitors out there on the east side, especially if you have to, come in and check in with the construction trailer. But a big man walked in and said he was from Garrison Signs, just down the road, probably less than a mile. But anyway, he identified himself and said that they wanted to be part of this veteran cemetery project. And so we, sign company, and I was thinking myself, well, I'm sure we're going to need signs at some point, but not sure how much. But anyway, said, no, we want to be part of the structures and everything out there at the cemetery. So what can we do to help this project along? So, of course, our construction superintendent had a conversation with him and found out that they're probably the leading company here in Lubbock taking care of flagpoles. And flags. They actually have a flagpole maintenance program. And so anyway, they're everything to do with flags and flagpoles. So they have provided the flagpoles out there, and they're the company that fabricated the bell tower for us and did a fantastic job. We couldn't be happier with our bell tower out there. So a big nod to Garrison's Brother Signs out on 50th Street. They've done a wonderful job for us, and we look forward to continuing to use them whenever we can.
Building on that, how can the community support the cemetery? Do you need volunteers? Tell us how the community can be involved.
So the outreach from the community has been phenomenal. Lubbock is a very veteran-friendly city, and we have had volunteers coming from all over the place saying they want to help. And right now, we don't need the help since we're not open. But once we open, we have a volunteer plan that we are coming up with, whether it's to come and sit in the office and help with pre-registrations a little bit, or whether it's cleaning out flower beds or things like that. But we have different monuments that are coming out to the cemetery.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yes, the Daughters of the American Revolution are donating a memorial out there, and we're going to have the VFW and the Military Order of the Purple Heart, Chapter 0900. And it's just amazing. I've had fathers come and say they want their sons to come and mow the lawn. And while we might not have them be doing that, there are other things that we'll have, including twice a year, we're going to have to wash the headstones. And so we'll have volunteer days for that. And then wreaths across America. There's a lot of different ways that people want to help, and we're going to get them involved, because this is the Lubbock, West Texas State Veteran Cemetery. And so we're not going to turn volunteers away. We really want people to be involved in this and help us take care of it the way our veterans deserve.
As both of you picture the first committal service to be held at the cemetery, what do you hope is true about the grounds and the process and the care that you're showing to the family?
Well, I'll say that it's quite common for a family to come and say, well, we already have a pre-plan in place at a cemetery here in town, as I do. But what I want that family, we invite them to our opening. And when they come to the opening, I just can't imagine them thinking to themselves, no, I want to be, buried over here at this other private cemetery, and not want to come out to the veteran cemetery, because one thing about it's not going to cost any additional to change their interment plans out to the veteran cemetery. But just to think of the being together, the final formation out there at the veteran cemetery, we take very good care of the whole cemetery. But we have ceremonies out there on Memorial Day and on Veterans Day. There's the carillon sounding in the morning and in the evening. I can't imagine a veteran not wanting to call the veteran cemetery their final resting place. So I just want, for me, I want those veterans that come to the opening, I want them to want to be at the veteran cemetery instead of their other planned resting place.
And I'll add on to that. When you join the military, you become part of a family. What better way to be laid to rest than by your family? It doesn't matter what branch you served in. It doesn't matter what time period you served in. We all are a part of that family. And I could meet a veteran for the first time and already feel like I've known them forever. And so to me, and I have pre-registered out at our cemetery here, I know that when we pass, we're gone from this life. But the thought of, like he said, reveille being played in the morning and taps at night, and then the service songs being played throughout the day, to me, it's just remarkable. And I know there's special circumstances, but why would they not want to be buried at this beautiful place? I mean, it has to be kept to National Cemetery Administration code, just like Arlington. And so it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be peaceful. And there's no better place that I'd like to be laid to rest.
Finally, for both of you, when you think 25, 50, 100 years down the road, what legacy do you hope this cemetery leaves for West Texas? And what do you hope it quietly teaches our future generations about service and gratitude?
Well, I know that in 50 years, I'll be a name on a headstone out there, and there'll be no distinction that I was the ones that helped get this off the ground. But I want what we put in place today out there at the Veterans Cemetery, I want that to be lasting throughout the future. I want it to remain the special resting place for veterans that it was in the beginning.
And for me, it's important that future generations, that they see the cost of sacrifice and they see the cost of freedom. And I want them to learn why service matters and why sacrifice is honored, and that our gratitude to all of those who have served should be lasting forever. We often say never forgotten, and this is a way where we can go out and we can look and we can read the names and truly remember the sacrifices of the greatest Americans that have put their life on the line every day that they were in service. And to me, that's just what I want it to be, is a place of remembrance as well.
Absolutely. Exactly as it should be. Norm, Sarah, thank you very much for taking time to share the story of the West Texas State Veterans Cemetery here in Lubbock. We're really looking forward to seeing that open and appreciate all of your efforts in launching this very important project for our area. Appreciate you listening. I'm Gordon Wilkerson, your host. Please join us again next week for another episode of Archive West Texas.